Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Today we have an amazing podcast to share with everyone, and I wanted to welcome my guest. I'm Ashley Lee of Access Infinite Knowledge, and I'd like to invite my guest all the way from Los Angeles, California. Welcome, Annie Klatkar.
Hi, Ashley. Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. We're here today to talk about our student leadership programs, and these are to create future leaders, leaders who create kindness and compassion and have a vision of equality for all. And I think we should probably start out by saying, Ashley and I, we came in with a lot of innate abilities with our intuition. And we didn't always have the guidance or the leadership that we needed through no one's fault. It just happened that we had a lot to work through to be able to have full expression of our gifts. And in today's world, we work with a lot of pregnant mothers. We work with young children from birth to college age.
Sure.
And many of the children have amazing gifts and abilities. And their parents are often looking for ways to support them and help them use their gifts and abilities and stand in their power. And many times we didn't grow up with parents who supported that in us, so we don't always know how to support that in our children. So Ashley and I, once again, put our heads together and said, okay, if we were growing up, what would we have liked? And we put together an amazing program that we're going to talk about today. So I think the first thing we ought to talk about is what do we typically see as a child's superpower? Let's start there, Ashley. You want to talk about that?
Yes, please. Okay, so what does that mean to have superpowers? And we didn't make this up. The kids did. We we asked them. We said, "How do you know that?" And they go, "Well, it's my superpower." I said, "Awesome." So let's describe to everyone and all the listeners, what does that mean, and how does that apply to our student leadership program? Well, what we really found is in the kids that really came forward to be leaders is many of them have they're highly sensitive. And in that sensitivity, that means they have extra sensory perceptions or awareness in and around the world that they experience. And so what does that mean? Well, for example, many of them can feel very empathic and or be empathetic, and that means that they can experience other people's emotions just as strongly as their own. And so they don't see a difference or a wall between themselves and other people. Others may be telepathic, that they experience other people's thoughts. You experience that from time to time. I knew what you were going to say before you said it, that kind of thing. But it's even more astute or more refined in many of these kids that have telepathic abilities. Some children also really have a strong sense of seeing people's energies. So they may see colors or, I know the children many times in my practice, and I see them very frequently, and I say, what color is around that person? And they'll say orange or red or blue, or why are they purple all the time? Those kinds of things. And so those are kids that can see colors, and some of those colors can mean emotional energies or mental energies, other people's energies, all kinds of different energies that they may not understand or fully are aware of. So these are the kids with superpowers that we find commonly in our environment that may or not know how to express about it.
Yeah, that's true. I often pick up the phone and go, psychic hotline.
Exactly.
When you or another friend of mine who I have really good telepathy with calls me, and they just bust out laughing because they know I was already thinking about them and they were already reaching for the phone.
Right. And what do we call that? I mean, that's a level of connection, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
we all
huge
experience
connection.
this on many levels. It's just some of these kids and some adults experience this on a very highly acute level. So they're always experiencing it, or when they experience it, it comes in very, very strong. And sometimes,
Exactly.
yeah, and sometimes when it's strong like that, it can be overwhelming. And that's where some of the sensitivity comes in.
But this is really great that you brought that up because children, let's face it, they go to school for like 12 years.
Right.
That means their whole being, superpowers included, are going into the classroom. And so, why don't you share with us a little bit about how
Absolutely. Let's
that
illustrate.
natural leadership might have been, suppressed, where they get to use their superpowers?
Absolutely. Let's illustrate that. So let's say we have a typical classroom and the classroom is first graders. So they're 6-year-olds. And so we take into account the different age groups and how they relate and interrelate with each other. But let's take a group of 6-year-olds, first graders. And the teacher is teaching math in form. So they're doing addition and maybe some subtraction and some different things in mathematics. And what happens is there's Johnny, and he's our superpower leader child in the classroom. There are probably many others too, but we'll focus on Johnny for this illustration. And Johnny's looking over 2 doors down, so 2 desks down and a back one. And there's Billy. And Billy is a little bit sullen. Billy's in his chair. He's kind of low tone. He's kind of not wanting to participate. And through Johnny's compassion and love for others and really wants to see everyone having a great time. The teacher's very dynamic. She's teaching as amazing as she can. She's doing a wonderful job. And Billy's just struggling and not having a hard time. And in that hard time, what happens is Johnny looks over at Billy and sees a lot of red in his energy. And Billy normally exhibits blue energy. And so wondered what happened to him, and noticed also that, he's just not feeling right. He's feeling down. He's feeling upset. He might feel even a little frustrated. And so Johnny notices this, may not have the words for it, but notices it. Then really wants to find out how to support Billy. So tunes into Billy's thoughts, and Billy's saying to himself, I hate this. I don't understand it. Why do I have to do this? And so Johnny then has a really good summation or an idea of what Billy's experiencing very literally in that moment. So Johnny's compassion just wells up inside of him. And he just has the impetus to get up out of his chair and go over to Billy and really kind of put his arm around him and say, it's okay. We're here on problem 3, for example. Well, the teacher noticed that Johnny got up out of the chair. And so there it is, right? And there is that unfolding where Johnny really wanted to share and support Billy, as an example.
Yeah, and I can see how that example can create a problem down the road when children naturally, intuitively go to express their innate leadership abilities, and then they get a message that places them in a position where they have to make a judgment or a belief about themselves and their abilities. You want to share what you see on that? Because
right.
You had a great way of expressing that.
Well, yeah, and we were moving into the concept where we wanted to share when we have leader children and they're expressing in their environment, and a lot of their environment is in school, and yet they feel suppressed or they're not able to fully express who they are, what they are, and how they're experiencing the world to support it or to give love and compassion. And so what happened was, playing that story out a little bit more, was the teacher noticed Johnny got up out of his chair. So accidentally, the teacher, because she was very involved in teaching the content, she didn't really notice all of the elements that were going on, that Billy was struggling. And so maybe she had thought or assumed or just developed a belief that Johnny was being disruptive, because he tends to get up quite a bit, because maybe really he's actually helping other students too. But he gets up out of his chair, and the teacher reprimands Johnny and says, Johnny, you need to return to your chair. That's not okay to get up. And so what happens is Billy doesn't get his needs met, although he does get a little bit of addressed from Johnny, but not enough yet. So Billy's still sullen and struggling. Johnny goes back to his chair. Now, what do you think Johnny's thinking inside of his head?
I think he's confused.
Yes.
He wanted to do the right thing, which was be compassionate and show love. And then he gets told that that's wrong.
That's right.
It goes against the rules.
Yeah. And so the rules are in conflict with compassion sometimes because of the perceptual understanding and the information that Johnny received. So Johnny did not know how to navigate in his world around him to get his needs met, Billy's needs met, and honestly, the teacher's needs met, right? So that every student was paying attention and learning and experience and having a good experience with that learning. Yeah, because that's really what Johnny wanted to help Billy really experience, because it was fun and the teacher is very dynamic and amazing, right? And so, but you're right. So what are we left with? Johnny, the leader child, he's left with these thoughts and feelings. And what do you think, Annie, some of those thoughts and feelings might be that are running through Johnny's head that he may or may not recognize?
Right. Probably. First big one is it's not okay to notice what he notices.
That's a good one.
This is a big problem for people who are intuitive, because then it puts them into a position of having to decide, what do I do with the energies that I notice?
Right. What do I do with that information, right? Because the energies that he's noting is really information or data. And he's not sure how to process that data and know what to do. And and I think the biggest one was, it's not okay to be me.
Right.
As a 6-year-old, he's saying, it was wrong. It was wrong for me to notice that Billy needed help. It was wrong for me to elicit help for Billy. It was wrong for me to be compassionate and caring, maybe. And when he's thinking those thoughts, then what happens? He doesn't trust his intuition, right? He doesn't trust that information coming in. And then
I think also you have the judgments from the teacher, right? How does he then clear those judgments?
Exactly.
And then the child, Billy, right?
Yeah.
There's this big question about, well, how does Billy get his needs met?
That's right.
And I know, just being very empathic myself, and I think the majority of people are empathic, they do have the ability to feel what other people are going through. There's a concern, like if I have the need to, let's say I notice, as I'll be Johnny for a moment, noticing Billy, and from inside that experience, I would feel like, oh, I have an innate need to want to support Billy, because children who have these leadership abilities, they come in already enlightened that we are not separate, that we're one.
Right.
And so in helping Billy, he's really helping himself, which is pretty advanced spiritual concept for some people to grasp. But more and more, I think now that we're all in the fifth dimension, in the golden age, and the children that are coming in are all enlightened. So if you've had a child born in the last 10 years or so, congratulations, your child is an enlightened being. They already know we're not separate.
Right.
And so when we try to teach boundaries and competition, it just doesn't work for them.
Yeah, it's really a big struggle. And so these are some of the aspects that we work with in doing the Student Leadership Energy Transmission Program. And
let's talk. Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
No, perfect. Please share.
It's just we touched on, the children coming in, and this really just makes the light go on in my head, and I go, yes, we got to talk about the children in the womb, because
we sure do.
They are coming in already spiritually awakened.
Yes.
And so they need support energetically from conception onwards.
They sure do.
So you actually have a very, thriving pediatric practice, and you see more pregnant mothers than I do, even though I do work with children and their parents, I typically seem to attract more of the middle grade and the upper grade level children. I don't typically get the pregnant ones. So what can you share with our listeners about how you energetically support these golden children that are coming into this golden age?
Well, we really wanted to share with when parents get together and they decide to create a baby, however they do that, which there are amazing ways to create our children in multitudes of families. But I wanted to share when parents come together to create a child and a child is created and gestating inside of a mother, what we want to do is really connect with that child. We want to connect with the pregnancy. We want to connect with the growing of this child. And how do we do that? Like some people read to their children, some people play music, some people talk, some people share stories. But I mean even deeper connection, like really, really tuning in and connecting with what is this child's attributes going to be when they're birthed, when they come out and they express in the world? Are they going to be leaders? Are they going to be people who support? Are they going to be unifiers? Are they going to be connectors? I mean, there's all kinds of ways of being. And what we wanted to promote really with every pregnancy is connecting with that unborn child, connecting very deeply, tuning in. What are they thinking? What are they, and obviously if they're very young in the pregnancy, right, they don't have a brain and nervous system formed yet. But what if our thinking goes beyond that? What if it goes beyond the mind? What if it's in the heart? What if it's in the spiritual aspect? So connecting with that baby spiritually, heart-centered, different ways. But I know the babies speak. And it's very interesting because when you start to move to those levels, you start to really understand their unique, if you could say, spiritual tendencies or personalities and what they're bringing forward to the world. And they're very unique. Each child has rather different expressions. And I really do feel that these different expressions are really beautiful gifts because the gifts then come forward as expressions and we all work together. So one person, like for example, in a farm, right, you could plant corn. If that person plants corn, another person plants tomatoes, another person does lettuce, then we have a whole salad, right? And so those are the same ideas that we bring forward in those leadership qualities. So if you feel that your little one in there is a born leader, a born person to support and guide others, what is it that they connect with? Do they connect through sound, music, auditory, hearing? Do they connect with feelings? The children can actually feel moms and dads or other partners' feelings about the world around them. And so
That is true.
It really, really is. You find that amazingly as well in your practice. And we find it together collectively in the practice in Access Infinite Knowledge when we work with children. And what we're doing is really we're accessing the knowledge of the children and connecting with them. And when we find that when we connect with each other, it is true love, compassion, understanding, and a level of unification. And when we unify with our baby, just think about how that child then, when they're born, they come out and they're more bonded with the parents. Why? Because they've been building this relationship with the child even before the child is born, can speak or breathe or cry or interact. And that way, they're interacting inside. And many mothers know this by kicking and slowing down or speeding up, right? A lot of times when we're done for the day as mothers, that's when the baby gets active. They're like, it's my turn to move.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true. May I just speak about science for a little bit? Because
please.
You brought up something that I want to just touch on about how we've learned to, how did you word it, about what kids are thinking and feeling and expressing. Science has shown us that a baby in utero experiences everything their mom is experiencing, for better, for worse. And the field of epigenetics essentially looks at how the genes are read by the cells in the body, and subsequently how they might produce proteins or enzymes and things like that. And it's just a control switch to the gene expression. And so I want to bring this up because people just love science. They love to see, they love to feel and know proof when they don't have trust and faith. And we're talking about a lot of things that are kind of abstract concepts for people. And we're pretty much programmed to believe that we have to see proof before we can believe in what's going on.
Right. So we have to see that in the baby, right?
Exactly.
So for example, I mean, my child, she was very interesting at 28 weeks gestation. We went and saw the Godzilla movie that came out. I'm going to date my pregnancy now, but we saw the modern day Godzilla movie. And it was terrible because it was really loud, and the Godzilla was going eek 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 eek, really loud. And I went to my husband Marvin and I said, Marvin, I think this is the first day I feel like a real parent. We have to leave. The baby inside does not want to hear Godzilla anymore. We have to leave, and we have to go now. So we left midway through the movie. And I didn't know back then, that was a few decades ago, and I didn't know that my child was auditorily sensitive. And it should have hit me over like a brick over my head, but it didn't. I mistakenly didn't understand that. But I did know, and when we left, she quieted down inside, and she got back to peace, and I could feel that peace inside of her. And I did not recognize, I did play music and stuff for her when I was pregnant, but I really didn't connect to the auditory sensitivity. And then sure enough, when she came out, she did have auditory sensitivities and didn't know how to work with that. So really from our experiences and many others, we can bring forward this knowledge and understanding to really bring this out and support the kids coming forward. And they don't have to be negative sensitivities. We can bring them out, and that's what we're talking about in our leadership program, is bringing out, helping those sensitivities really come into balance so that their leadership skills really come forward and blossom, and they fully flower in their ideas and their process to really support the world around them.
Yeah. I don't want to leave anybody hanging who, where I may have left them in a little moment of fear there, that everything that you experience as a mom while you're carrying your child. I just want you to know that everything at epigenetics is reversible, by the way.
It sure is.
It's just on and off switches. And this is a really important concept that I'm trying to bring up here, because we change our genetics through conscious intention and conscious awareness. And this is super important because future leaders need to know that outcomes can be different by changing the energy of their thoughts, their intentions, and their belief structures. So,
it's really true.
Dynamic.
In many instances, you find in family constellation work, you find that they may have areas where grandma or grandpa or people up the ancestral line has had similar sensitivities or leadership qualities, and they might have, the trauma or something that happened that wasn't so favorable came forward inside the family's genetic expression. And so it's coming forward again in the child. And many times we experience that in our work while supporting people, is finding that what we call a discordance or an energy disruption, because it disrupts us from being standing in our power and being our full true expression to the world. And that's what we clear for everyone.
So that's great. And you brought up your daughter's auditory sensitivities. And I have a daughter with processing and other sensory issues. So what in life can affect a baby that's born with difficulties in terms of bonding and relating to others? Because
I agree.
I think there's a lot to be said here. we tend sometimes as parents to dismiss that, a child will either ever get to where we would love them to go, right? Every parent has their hopes and dreams, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So what do you see as obstacles to any child, especially a child with special needs?
Well, I think a child with special needs, and depending on where those special needs are, but I think what you're focusing on is maybe children who are emotionally or cognitively have difficulty connecting with others in their world around them. And inside of that context, how do we support children who are kind of off and maybe in their own experience and having trouble connecting with those around them? And really, I find that the best process for a parent, a teacher, anyone working with children with this sort of emotional and cognitive abilities or difficulties and strains is really connecting with them and finding out where their superpowers are. Are they in hearing? Are they in seeing? Are they in feeling? Are they in knowing? And connecting to that, talking to them, giving them eye contact, physical contact, connecting with them, and helping them guide them out of their perceived reality and world and bringing them forward to this reality that we're the area, the audience, the classroom, the home environment where everyone else is experiencing reality so that they can commune and unify with everyone. And when we do that, and we connect with them through their abilities, that bridges them back to the experience, to where you are or where the others are in the group. And that's just one broad explanation. But we can go from let's say that we use a certain child that really is sunk in books, right? And they like to read books. But when you talk to them, they don't really respond. They're still reading the book. So that's them having difficulty connecting with you or the world around them. And so instead, sit down with them, read the book with them. What does the little pig say in the book? What are they trying to convey? And there still might not be any response, and say, I feel that the pigs are experiencing this. What do you feel? And just start simplifying and simplifying the questions until you start to get a response. Then you know at the level in which they would like to be spoken to bring them out and bring them forward. And you watch, they'll start to smile, they'll start to engage, they'll start to touch you, hug you, do different things to say, I'm here, I'm connecting, I get it, thank you. A lot of times we don't understand, we get confused on why the children are maybe behaving or feeling or thinking that way, and we're unsure how to work with them. And so that's one example, which was very beautiful question about connecting some of the kids that tend to maybe space out, as we could call it, or look the other way, or have difficulty speaking or coming forward. Lots of these children don't speak orally. They want to speak through sign language. Many of them, quite honestly, want to speak through telepathy. They want to forgo languaging, and they want to just speak directly head to head or heart to heart. And they're not sure how to start the conversation by a parent who's very used to talking with their voice. So those can be some of the challenges. So start thinking a thought in your head and send it with direct conscious awareness or volition. You're intending it to go there and letting it land on the child and say, how may I help you? Or would you like an apple? Or something simple that the child can then respond, and then maybe go to the refrigerator and get an apple. And then you've communicated to them, even if they haven't communicated to you back. Then start to talk with them. Say, you can tell me back. Go to the refrigerator, get the apple, pull it out, and show me that you got it. Then I know we're talking to each other. Right? And that's just one example of how we can connect to them. But we have gazillion examples to share with you.
I know, because my daughter, she has some off the charts math skills that I didn't even know were possible. And then I had to learn how to parent her, and I'm still learning, and I will, until she's fully standing in her power. But I think what you were saying to our listeners is that within every child is amazing and limitless potential.
Absolutely.
And never let go your hopes and dreams for your child, because you can give them everything they need. And what you're not able to give them, one solution would be to work with ourselves and participate in the student leadership program that we put together, so that it supports your goals for having your child be self-guided, have self-advocacy, have them be able to stand in their power and speak their truth with tact and grace and maybe even a sense of humor, no matter when life throws them a curveball. And I think one way to summarize this program would be to say that the child and the parent will have the opportunity together as a bonding experience to go inward, to connect and create worlds together that are realized in their heart. So, Ashley, why don't you share now the program?
Yeah, let's talk about the nuts and bolts. So,
please.
We're doing an energy transmission program once a month, starting during the school year, and it starts in August and goes through May. So it's 10 sessions. It's on a Wednesday, and it's at 8 p.m. your time. Now, what does that mean? Because we coined a term here, Annie, and we created what's called time zone indifferent. So that means if you are in North America and you're on the East Coast, that's 8 p.m. your time. If you're on the West Coast, that's 8 p.m. your time, Pacific time. Then let's say you're all the way in Australia, that's 8 p.m. your time, even on a different date line. So it's 8 p.m. on the Wednesday. You and your child get to hang out together, have an opportunity to spend moments of silence together through a meditation. You sit together, lay down together, wherever it's comfortable for you in your home, turning off the electronics, turning off the media, TV, computer, tablet, phone, and just go into silence and connect to the energy transmission. We have formulated a high-level curriculum to support young leaders, no matter how old they are. Again, that's from gestation all the way up to college age. And this is to create a process of really developing their mastery and skills within their abilities to lead, and bringing those leadership qualities really forward at the end of the 10 months. By the end of the school year, you and your child have developed a relationship, an opportunity for speaking and talking with each other, supporting your child and giving them the wording, the advocacy, the opportunities to explore their gifts, their true nature leadership qualities, and really honing them into skills throughout the day, throughout the year, to really feel that fully blossomed person inside of their body, expressing who they really are without any forms or less forms of suppression, and learning how to navigate through that.
I'm gonna summarize all of what you just said.
Please.
So that they get the highlights here that they can remember. Wednesday nights, your time at 8 p.m. with your child. Relax, breathe in the energy. That is how simple this is. It is so effective that, what is this, our third program that we've created?
Yes.
Yes. So you might be wondering, what does a future leader look like? Like, if they go through our program, what might you expect as an outcome? So I think, hey, happier and healthier.
Yeah.
Is just the beginning, but there's really three key elements, right, Ashley?
There really is. That first one is supporting and teaching, and we also have a follow-through process with the parents to engage with, and depending on the age of the child too, they can participate. in a follow-through program that we have online on our website that we can support you through in answering these questions and really growing and developing it in the real world, in the real classroom, in the real home, all of those things, and creating those inner relationships. And really, this first point is about how the child can consciously clear the judgments and irritations and overwhelm emotions of others. So clearing the energies of others and themselves so that they go to bed feeling open, feeling clear, ready to rest and rejuvenate their bodies.
Yeah.
What's that
That's
second
true.
point,
I wish
Annie?
I had known that as a kid.
I know.
The second point is that you end up with a child who can see or sense with love for self and others, especially another's needs, and then strive to see others self-empowered too, right? So this
Exactly.
is the root of creating and demonstrating equality through deliberate and mastered empathy.
Right. And then on the third point, we take that empathy to a whole nother level, is
Mhm.
really expressing compassion
Yeah.
through supporting other people and determining, depending on their age, how they resource themselves and other people. So as our 6-year-old Johnny, the resource for Billy might even just be a hug. It might be a pat on the back. It might be a reassuring statement. Any one of those things could help really support Billy getting back and standing in his full power as well. So there's lots of ways. So they recognize in that third point how to deliver their compassion to
Yeah.
themselves and others.
I'm working on that with my 6-year-old. He already tells me when he's, crying for some reason, Mom, I've already released my judgments. And that's him telling me, okay, I've done that part. What's the next step I need to learn so I can feel better quickly? And honestly, this is the most profound thing I've ever seen in my life. Because when I was much, much younger, I did 15 years of childcare. And I did not know, I wish I could time travel and go bring all this knowledge back and kind of teach it to all the children I got to work with, because there were so many. And the duration that a child endures pain and suffering in a moment can vary. But I am seeing my son with lightning quick speed now move through the energies as he processes them.
Absolutely.
And it's just great.
Our goal here is really throughout the world to have all of these kinds of kids experience this with obviously
Yes.
much less pain and suffering, but really in a state of compassion for themselves and others, and create that expression through that compassion. And that's where we really are focused, is creating future leaders everywhere on the planet, all throughout humanity. And we are so honored and delighted that you had the opportunity to join us today to really delve into these deeper aspects, to know how to support your future leader. And we're here to
Absolutely.
deliver this. And it's really a wonderful program to create that sense of connection, deepness, and really support them in unifying and helping our world be even a greater place than it can be now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to sign up for our student leadership program, all you have to do is go to our website, which is accessinfinite.knowledge.com. That's ACCESSINFINITE knowledge, KNOWLEDGE.com, and look for the remote transmissions, and you will find this program, Student Leadership Program, listed as one of our offerings. And we invite you to ask us questions, give us feedback. We are all open to improving and helping you understand with greater clarity what it is that we're offering.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.